Imagine sitting at your desk, staring at a chart that looks like a heartbeat gone mad. 1 second, your trade is in profit. The next, a single candlestick wipes out everything you worked for. Your palms sweat, your chest tightens, and before you know it, you've either closed too early, held on too long, or doubled down in desperation. Sound familiar? If it does, you're not alone. This exact cycle has broken millions of traders worldwide. But what if I told you the problem isn't your setup, your broker, or even the market itself? What if the real enemy is sitting in your own head? Mark Douglas, author, trading psychologist, and one of the most respected voices in the world of finance, spent decades unraveling this mystery. He revealed truths about trading that cut deeper than strategies or indicators. Truths that showed why 95% of traders lose consistently, while a tiny fraction build long-term success. Douglas didn't promise magic formulas. He didn't talk about secret chart patterns or hidden institutional order flows. Instead, he gave traders something far more powerful, a way to think, a mindset that allows you to operate in uncertainty without fear, hesitation, or destructive impulses. In this video, we're going to uncover his greatest lessons, his secrets, if you will, that remain as relevant today as the day he wrote them. Stay with me because by the end, you'll realize this: trading isn't about conquering the market. It's about conquering yourself. Before we dive into his teachings, we need to understand the man behind them. Mark Douglas wasn't born into Wall Street privilege. He didn't wear a golden tie or sit in a corner office of a towering skyscraper. He was just like many traders, fascinated by the markets, filled with ambition, and yes, at first, just as prone to failure as the rest of us. In the late 1970s and 80s, Douglas began working closely with traders, money managers, and institutions. What he observed shocked him. These were people with access to the best research, powerful computers, and brilliant strategies. Yet, despite all that, many still lost consistently. Why? Not because their methods were flawed, but because their minds were. Douglas himself struggled too. He wasn't some detached philosopher. He experienced the frustration, the emotional roller coaster, and the crushing weight of blown accounts. And it was through those very struggles that he stumbled onto something profound: the realization that trading is a mental game, not a purely technical one. This revelation led him to write The Disciplined Trader in 1990, a book that was groundbreaking at the time because it shifted the spotlight from how to trade to how to think while trading. A decade later, he solidified his legacy with Trading in the Zone, a masterpiece that remains one of the most quoted books in trading history. Douglas became known as the trader's psychologist, not because he had all the answers, but because he asked the right questions. And those questions continue to echo. Do you really understand risk? Do you truly accept uncertainty? Or are you unconsciously fighting a battle you cannot win? One of Mark Douglas' most controversial ideas is also one of his most liberating. The market is random, at least in the short term. Now, at first, that sounds discouraging. If it's random, then what's the point of studying charts, strategies, or price action? But this is where Douglas drew the line between amateurs and professionals. He explained that yes, the outcome of any single trade is completely uncertain. A setup might look perfect, but one unexpected news release, one big institutional order, or one sudden shift in sentiment can blow it apart. That's randomness. But, and here's the critical part, over a large enough sample of trades, patterns emerge. Probabilities kick in. Think of flipping a coin. Flip it once, and you have no clue whether it'll land heads or tails. Flip it 10 times, you still might see streaks that make you doubt the odds. But flip it 1,000 times, and the math begins to reveal itself. Close to 50-50. That's how probability works. And that's exactly how trading works. Douglas insisted that traders stop trying to predict the outcome of this trade and instead focus on the law of large numbers. Your edge, whatever it is, only plays out over dozens, maybe hundreds of trades, which means if you're judging yourself by a single win or loss, you're setting yourself up for emotional chaos. Here's the takeaway. You don't need to be right on every trade to make money. You just need to execute your edge consistently, allow probability to play out, and detach yourself from needing to win now. This is why Douglas said, the best traders think in probabilities, not certainties. It's not about being right, it's about letting the math do the work. Mark Douglas is remembered most for his 5 fundamental truths of trading. These aren't motivational slogans, they're mental frameworks designed to rewire how you see the market. Let's walk through each one. Truth 1. Anything can happen. The market doesn't owe you logic, fairness, or predictability. Perfect setup can fail. A sloppy setup can succeed. Why? Because there are millions of participants, each acting on different information, emotions, and needs. The moment you believe something must happen, you set yourself up for pain. Professional traders remind themselves before every trade. Anything can happen. This acceptance frees you from shock when the unexpected arrives. Truth 2. You don't need to know what will happen next to make money. This truth sounds counterintuitive, but it's the heart of trading. Imagine a casino. The house doesn't know if the next spin of roulette will land on red or black. But over thousands of spins, their edge ensures profit. Likewise, traders don't need certainty on the next tick. They need confidence in their long-term edge. The amateurs obsess over predicting. The pros focus on executing. Truth 3. There is a random distribution between wins and losses. This is where most traders break mentally. You can have a 70% win rate system and still hit 5 losers in a row. Does that mean the system is broken? No. It means probability is playing out. Just as you can flip a coin and get 5 heads in a row, your trades can cluster wins and losses. Once you internalize this, you stop panicking over streaks and start thinking like a statistician. Truth 4. An edge is just a probability, not a guarantee. This is where ego gets traders destroyed. Having an edge doesn't mean you know what will happen next. It just means you have a higher probability of success over time. Traders fail when they attach their identity to being right. Professionals detach. The outcome of this trade doesn't define them. They simply follow their edge trade after trade, knowing the results will average out. Truth 5. Every moment in the market is unique. This is the hardest truth for many. Just because the chart looks the same as last week's setup doesn't mean it is the same. Different traders, different orders, different conditions are in play. Every moment is new. That means you can't trade from memory or assumption. You must stay fully present, fully engaged, and fully detached. When Douglas first shared these truths, many traders dismissed them as too philosophical. But here's the irony. Those same traders kept losing, while those who absorbed these principles became consistent winners. These truths aren't theory, they're survival skills. If you resist them, the market will punish you until you surrender. If you embrace them, you stop fighting reality and start flowing with it. Mark Douglas often said, "The only way to be free in the market is to accept the risk completely." At first glance, that sounds obvious. Every trader knows there's risk. But Douglas wasn't talking about acknowledging risk in theory. He meant truly accepting it at a subconscious level. And here's the catch. Most traders never do. Think about it. Why do you hesitate before entering a trade, even when your setup is clear? Why do you cut winners short, terrified they'll reverse? Why do you double down on losers, desperately hoping they'll turn around? All of these behaviors have one root cause. You haven't accepted the risk. Deep down, you're still fighting the possibility of loss. Douglas explained it this way. Until you fully embrace that any trade can lose, your brain will resist taking losses, distort information, and sabotage your execution. You'll see what you want to see, not what's actually there. But once you truly accept risk, when you genuinely internalize that losses are just part of the game, fear evaporates. You stop needing to be right. You stop needing control. Suddenly, placing a trade feels no different from flipping a coin with fair odds. Win or lose, you're calm because you've already made peace with both outcomes. That's the real secret to trading without hesitation. It's not about being fearless. It's about making peace with uncertainty. When you think about the great traders, those who survive years, even decades, you'll notice one thing. They don't flinch when they lose. Why? Because they've accepted it before it even happens. And here's Douglas' gift to us. The moment you stop fearing risk, the market stops controlling you. You start controlling yourself. Every new trader chases the holy grail. The perfect indicator, the secret algorithm, the one strategy that never fails. They burn through courses, systems, and signal groups like firewood. Yet, their results remain the same: chaotic, inconsistent, painful. Mark Douglas stripped away that illusion. He argued that consistency has nothing to do with finding the right method and everything to do with cultivating the right mindset. Think about the casino. The house doesn't panic when a gambler hits a lucky streak. They don't shut down the table after a loss. Why? Because they know their edge, and they execute it relentlessly. Over time, the math guarantees profit. Professional traders operate the same way. Their consistency comes from discipline, patience, and detachment, not from trying to reinvent their method every week. They don't need excitement or adrenaline from the markets. In fact, Douglas said the best traders are often boring because they execute the same process over and over again without emotional fireworks. On the other hand, amateurs let emotions dictate their actions. After a loss, they abandon their system. After a win, they over-leverage. This erratic behavior creates random results because they're trading from impulse, not process. Douglas' insight was simple but profound. Consistency is not an outcome, it's a mindset. You don't become consistent by hoping for consistent results. You become consistent by thinking and acting like a consistent trader, every single trade, win or lose. The irony? Once you stop chasing perfect results and start focusing on executing with discipline, the results naturally become consistent. So the question isn't, what strategy should I trade? The real question is, can I stick to a process without letting fear, greed, or ego hijack me? Because in Douglas' words, the consistency you seek is in your mind, not in the markets. Mark Douglas passed away in 2015, but his voice still echoes through trading floors, forums, and YouTube videos to this day. Few figures in the trading world left as deep an imprint as he did. Not because he gave traders a way to beat the market, but because he gave them a way to beat themselves. His books, The Disciplined Trader and Trading in the Zone, continue to sit on the shelves and desktops of traders around the globe. For many, they're not just books, they're lifelines. A struggling trader picks up Trading in the Zone and suddenly realizes, I don't need to know the future to make money. I just need to accept the uncertainty. That single shift has rescued countless traders from blowing up and guided them toward consistency. But Douglas' legacy isn't just in words, it's in transformation. He didn't just write theory. He coached traders, gave seminars, and patiently broke down what others dismissed as soft skills. The irony is what most saw as soft mindset, discipline, psychology, turned out to be the hardest edge of all. What makes Douglas timeless is his ability to pierce through ego. He had a way of exposing the truth we all try to avoid, that our greatest enemy in trading isn't the market, the broker, or the algorithm. It's us. And until we tame that enemy, no strategy will save us. So when traders talk about Douglas today, they don't just remember a man. They remember a mentor, a guide, a mirror. His lessons live on every time a trader resists revenge trading, every time someone cuts a loss without hesitation, every time a professional shows up to trade the plan instead of the emotion. His legacy is simple but eternal. Master yourself, and you can master the markets. So here's the truth. Most traders will never make it. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they can't read a chart, but because they never conquer the war within themselves. Mark Douglas dedicated his life to exposing that hidden battlefield, and his words remain a map for anyone willing to listen. If you take nothing else from this video, remember this: you don't need to predict the future to profit. You don't need to win every trade to succeed. You don't need a perfect system, you need a disciplined mind. The market will always be unpredictable, but your response to it doesn't have to be. That's where your power lies. Ask yourself, will you keep chasing certainty in an uncertain game? Or will you finally do what Douglas taught? Accept risk, think in probabilities, and step into the zone where consistency lives. The choice is yours. If this message resonated with you, if Mark Douglas' teachings gave you even one moment of clarity today, then this is your invitation. Subscribe to this channel, share this video with a fellow trader, and join the conversation in the comments. Because together, we're not just building accounts, we're building the psychology that sustains them. Douglas once said, "The consistency you seek is in your mind, not in the markets. The sooner you believe that, the sooner your trading journey transforms. This is more than a strategy. This is a mindset. This is the psychology of winning.